we're getting ready to head out on a trip, and I need to hitch up our fifth wheel. Now, some of you had reached out and said, hey, we would love a video where you show us how you actually hitch up a fifth wheel. Now, I'm assuming maybe it's somebody who owns a travel trailer and they're thinking about a fifth wheel, or maybe you're just curious how I do it if you already own a fifth wheel. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get the truck around. I just need to roll the tonneau back and put the tailgate down, and then I need to finish up the RV, bring in the slide out, put up the steps, but then I'll show you exactly how I hitch up our fifth wheel. All right, so now that I have the slide out in, the steps up, and my truck bed ready, what I like to do is just go ahead and start getting my truck close and lined up. And what we're gonna need to do is, once I get close here, I'm gonna go ahead and just stop. And that, by doing that, it kind of helps me get an idea of how far up I need to bring the front of the fifth wheel. But first, what we need to do is, you can see the rear stabilizers are still down. And so I need to come over here to the control panel for our stabilizers. And we are going to bring those up first, because that's the first thing we need to do. I actually really like this Lippert leveling system. I just go in and I'm going to go to auto retract rear, press enter to begin. Now that our rear landing gear is up, now what I need to do, as you can tell, I definitely need to bring the front of the RV up. What I like to do, and I think what you're supposed to do, is I want my pin to come in right at about the center here and then just kind of level off. So we've got a ways to go. Let's go ahead, come back over here, and we will start bringing the front up. All right, I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna go ahead and start bringing the truck back, and we'll see if we need to make any more adjustments. Now, I can't use my rear camera here on the truck because with the tailgate down, it doesn't help me. What I actually use when I'm doing this by myself is the center headrest is what I kind of use as my guide for trying to get lined up. So what I always do is, when I'm doing this by myself, I go nice and slow and I take my time. If Patty's here with me, then we use the walkie-talkie. So, all right, well, I backed into my tripod. Good news is my iPhone is fine. Bad news is I broke the mount, but I have an extra one, so we're good. I'm just gonna keep on coming back. And again, when I'm by myself, I just take my time. All right, so now I can tell that I'm a little too high here. I'm just gonna need to lower the front down. So I'm gonna hit retract. We're just gonna bring this down. You're watching what I'm watching. All right, maybe just a little too low. Let me just take that up just a touch. Like I said, if Patty's out here, this goes a lot quicker. Might be off just a little bit left or right. Okay, I'm gonna pull up just a little bit, correct that left or right. And it's not much, so. And there we go. Let's see if we're locked in. We are. It did lock in. I'm going to peek my head under here, see what you're seeing. And now what I like to do, just as an extra precaution, even though I can see the lock through there, I like to do what's known as the tug test. And that means I'm going to put it in drive and just tug on it just a little bit. We don't want to move the trailer because remember, the landing gear is still down, but I just want to make sure that lock is fully secure. All right, there we go. We are good to go there. Now what I can do is we can go ahead and we can start bringing up our front landing gear if we want. We still have to finish up with the hitch, get that plugged in, but I'm just going to go ahead and bring this up while we're standing right here. And so all I have to do on this control panel is I'm going to go to auto retract all, hit enter, and now you'll see we're going ahead and bringing those front ones up. And that's going to do that on its own. And now what I have to do is bring up the manual portion. So you just pull this pin, slide it up, and push it through. Now what I like to do is I always like to check to make sure the pin went all the way through. I do the same thing when I'm setting up, because especially if you're going to put weight on this, you don't want that pin partially the way through, because that weight could potentially cause it to give out or going down the road. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here. I'm going to bring up this side. Double check. I fill my pin all the way through, and we are good on that. Now we'll move on to the next step. The next thing is I'm going to go ahead. I just store my cable and my safety brake cable right up here in this tongue opening. Keep them out of the way. And now we're going to plug in for our trailer lights. Now my 7-pin connector that came with the truck is down under. Some trucks will come with one up here. I didn't have one, but when the place put in my hitch, they went ahead and added one right up here. That way I don't have to mess with the cable coming over the tailgate. That way, if I want to put my tailgate down, I don't have this cord to deal with, because right there is where it would normally plug in. All right, that's done. Let's finish up. Okay, the next thing I have to do is right down here. I'm going to try to get the camera so you can see it. See where those line up? Let's see if you can see them there. See that? We need to put the safety pin through there to lock this into place, so that going down the road, this couldn't somehow accidentally come open and, lose our fifth wheel. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to go do that. And I'm also going to attach the safety brake cable. That way, if it would come attached, this will yank, lock up, stop my trailer from going backwards down the highway, which we don't want to happen. Now, I have heard so many different people give so many different ways to do this. I've had some say, well, just hook it to the truck bed on one of the hooks. That way, as it's rolling backwards, it should yank and pull. I've had other people tell me hook it to the actual hitch. I just want to make sure if this thing were to somehow come loose, that this cable stays here, and as the RV is going backwards, it yanks and engages the brakes. So what I do, and I'm not saying this is right, it's just what I do, I bring it up and over, and then when I go to put the safety pin through, I make sure that I run it through there as well, and then I lock that safety pin across. That way, if this were to come loose, this should hold right here. This is pretty solid, and that should activate the brakes. Now, technically, we are fully hitched up and ready to roll, but there's a couple more things I have to do. And one on this particular fifth wheel is I end up removing these feet. With the amount of clearance I have with the foot and my snap pad on here, it's not much. And I don't want to risk getting into a situation where one of these could get ripped off. So I go ahead and just pull them every time we travel. It's not a big deal. And honestly, I've just gotten used to it. Now, some of that has to do with that HD 2500 truck. It sets so high, and this is a smaller fifth wheel. Remember, it's only 27 feet. And if I had a bigger fifth wheel, I don't think this would be an issue at all. It's just because we went with what they call one of their lighter series. I think a lot of the manufacturers refer to these as half-ton towable. I would never tow this even with a half-ton, just because the pin weight on this is about 1550. So I'll go ahead and remove the other side. I'll pull up my wheel chocks, unplug the RV, and we're on the road ready to go. So I've been out here about a total of 30 minutes hitching up and filming this video. And honestly, it's the filming that slows me really down. If Patty and I are hitching up together, we're looking at maybe a 5 to 7 minute process, because she's talking me through as I'm backing up. That way I don't have to keep getting in and out of the truck. And She will run the stabilizers if she needs to bring the trailer up or down. And hooking up the fifth wheel, honestly, to me, is actually easier than when we've had travel trailers, because I don't have weight distribution bars to hitch up, or if we had the Anderson, hooking up the chains, just have none of that. So that's how easy it is to actually hook up a fifth wheel. I don't think I missed any steps. I hope not. And I will tell you, ever since we bought this fifth wheel, I go through these steps in my head multiple times, because I have seen people who will, for instance, not lock in their pin and they start to pull away. Fifth wheel comes off and falls on the bed of their truck. Or if you don't get that pin on the landing gear locked all the way, those can collapse and cause problems. So I run through this very quickly, but in my head, double checking everything, because I just don't want any issues. So there you go. That's how I do it. It may not be the way everyone else does it, but this is the way I did it when we had our 35-foot fifth wheel for 8 years, and that's the way I do with this 27-foot. So let me know, what did I miss? What would you suggest I do differently? Leave it down in the comments section. I'd love to hear. Thank you so much for all of you who took the time to make it all the way to the end of this video. I appreciate your view. I appreciate you being here. And until next time, we'll see you on down the road. Bye.
Travels with the lady. We'll see you on down the road.